Very good evening to all our membership traders. 16th of April 2021, Friday evening, 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time. As always, we meet to discuss the markets, few sectors, and stocks, which looks good from a medium to long-term perspective. A warm welcome to all our new joinees over the last 1 week. First, we'll talk about the Nifty, Bank Nifty, and how have been the sectors playing out. We have the daily chart of Nifty in front of us. It's in a nice downward sloping channel, behaving pretty well, lower highs, lower lows kind of a behavior. The problem has been the fact that the short-term trend extremely volatile, reversing almost every 10 to 12 days, which has led to lack of follow-through movements either on the upside or on the downside. You can see where the index stands today, close to that 14,700 level, is what has been kind of the level for quite some time now. It's been oscillating within close to that 14,700, 800 kind of levels. So from a medium to long-term perspective, if you look at the weekly, monthly charts, we are in a beautiful uptrend. We had a wonderful run since last year, 23rd of March. And of course, this kind of a multi-week consolidation is something which is obvious, which is likely, which is normal, natural, and which is healthy for the overall long-term trend. We understand that. And so we have to live through it. Markets, prices goes through zones of trending zones and trading zones, or should I say directional time and non-directional phase. So because we had an amazingly directional phase since March last year, it is obvious that the stock will revert back and go into a trading phase, a non-directional phase of price. And this is exactly what we are dealing with now. From a short-term trader's perspective, it is frustrating, it is understandable, nothing can be done about it, we just have to live through it. What is the situation now? The situation at the current juncture is we are in a short-term downtrend thanks to the big gap down sell-off that we saw on the 12th of April. And so we have moved into a downtrend. The next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, has essentially gone into slow dragging up moves. Today we saw some amount of selling coming from this gap down, and so 14,700, 800, that I think would be a little clear if you take a look at the 75-minute time frame. There you go. This is the gap that I'm talking about. This is the gap, which is 14,700, 800 kind of levels. And so if the index has to show some strength, show some intention to test the 15K or above, then it needs to deal with this first, 14,700, 800 first. Only if it sustains above it, then only we can, turn a little on the bullish side. Are we on the bearish side? Not necessarily to a lot of extent. I would say cautiously bearish is not a bad stance, because over the last 2.5 months, we've seen that the reversals on the upside have been V-shaped and quite severe. So we don't want to go completely bearish, but definitely not bullish right now. Cautious is the right term to use. This is the phase where we should focus more on our risk management rather than to chase profits. Profits will come once the prices starts to trend. So I would, recommend that maintain a very neutral, cautious bias, neutral in terms of the direction, cautious in terms of the stance, and keep your trades short term. Don't sit on your positions for a longer period of time. I think this is the phase of the market where one should do very short-term trades or very, very long-term trades. In between those trades will probably get whipsawed. Now, Nifty Bank, post the Nifty, it's the Bank Nifty which drag the overall markets down. This is the pocket of the market which has the highest strength, weightage. And so this index has corrected quite a bit. If I quickly draw an info line from its all-time high to the recent lows, we can see that we've already had an 18% high to low correction on the Bank Nifty. And for the Nifty, If I consider this lows, it's around 7%. So we can clearly see that the bank Nifty has been a big underperformer. The private sector banks too have underperformed quite a bit. Now, in terms of levels, interesting. The first level that I was keeping a close watch on is close to that 32,300, which was the highs of Jan and the lows of March. Now this, the markets have taken out. Now I'm going to change the color. I'm going to turn it into a resistance now. And the recent bounce back, the last 3 days, is what we have found from the highs of December and the lows of Jan. Now this support is, as of now, working well. This is the resistance that it needs to deal with. It has closed the gap which Nifty has faced resistance at. Bank Nifty has managed to close it. It's a weak sector as of now, 18% correction high low. But if you look at the weekly, monthly charts, especially the weekly charts, you'll find quite a healthy correction in that uptrend back to its lows of Jan 21. And so this week also it has managed quite a decent rally from the intra-week lows, not exactly a hammer pattern, but a decent lower shadow for sure. So it's trying not to fall any further. If it drops further down, I think this will try and make some kind of a soft landing in this zone. I've drawn a little bit of volume profile over here, the entire rally from September to the highs of Feb. And a cluster of volumes we can see here with the point of control being at little below 30K, it's around 29,500. So let's talk about levels. 30K is a psychological level. Even if it breaks 30K close to 29,500, this is the zone where I feel the Bank Nifty will try and bottom out if it falls from current prices. If it takes it out and takes about 33K, we are back to an uptrend for sure. If it comes down, I think those legs on the downside should be used as an opportunity to buy on dips, to accumulate your medium-term to long-term banking positions. I think that fall will be a fall which will help to bottom out the index. Let's come to stock charts and take a look at the RRG charts and all the sectors. First, let's take a look at 1 week performance. In terms of 1 week, in terms of price first, the only sector which did show us some strength, some positivity is CNX Pharma. Rest, all the sectors were negative. PSU banks down 7%, real estate, media, IT also down after the outperformance that it showed recently. Small and mid caps also find itself down today, but it's banking at the top. We've got private sector banks also 1.7%, Bank Nifty 1.5% down. Majority of this damage was done on the first day of the week when we opened with that big gap down. Pharma held on well. In terms of a 3-month, let's say 12-week performance, if I look into the price, metals completely big, huge outperformer, and this outperformance is likely to stay. One should approach metals buy on dip going forward. There's no doubt about it. The tail is positive. It's in the leading sector. Commodities, of course, will be there. Small caps, mid caps. PSU Bank, from a 3-month perspective, is still in a leading zone. So we spoke about just some time back that Bank Nifty may try to bottom out soon if we get a leg down. So it will be interesting to see. Keep an eye on stocks like State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, PNB for a prospective bounce back. Apart from that, let's sort it in terms of the tail. So PSU Bank is there, metal we spoke about right now, mid and small caps, energy. We've been talking about this for the last, I think, 3 weeks. We've been talking about this for the last 2-3 weeks because of the fact that it's in the improving quadrant, number one. Number two, it's gaining relative strength. So let's take a look at what's happening in the energy, which is the oil and gas over here that I have created. From this will sort in terms of 1 day, so not much in it. But I'm going to take a look at first Reliance Industries. Sadly, it has broken below the psychological 2K mark. It has stayed below the psychological 2K mark, and it's in a pretty weak state of price. If I look at the weekly charts, we can clearly see that the stock is stuck over here. So nothing much can we expect. But the good thing is, in a range bound, when a stock is range bound, a very simple thing to do is look to buy at supports and look to sell at resistances. Now it's coming close to that 1900 and sub 1900. One should be keeping a close eye on Reliance for a prospective bounce back. But that's not the leader. We found over here that there is some amount of gain of relative strength. So where is this relative strength coming in from then? Let's take a look at oil marketing companies. BPCL just a bounce back today, nothing much. The trend is still down. Gas, Authority of India Limited. IGL is still range bound. MGL, not so good. So GAIL, yes, it has held well. The strength is definitely there. In fact, it's a breakout candidate. We took a look at BPCL, HPCL, and now we'll take a look at IOC. I think HPCL, BPCL is much better. IOC is in a pretty weak trend. So nothing much from the OMCs. Sorry for blowing that out. ONGC, steady, much better. And finally, Petronet, very, very weak. So this relative strength, gain of relative strength, is essentially maybe coming from the fact that it's not falling as much as the rest of the other stocks or the sectors are. But I would say Gas Authority of India Limited and IGL, these are the two stocks. One should definitely keep a close watch from a short-term to medium-term perspective. Now, going back to the tails over here, we've got weakness in IT, gone to the lagging, from weakened to lagging. So this will be interesting to see how this IT plays out. Pharma is now going towards improving. So pharma can be looked as buy on dips. I'll quickly wrap it up. FMCG, pharma, buy on dips. They have moved on to improving. And energy, we spoke about the gas stocks. PSU banks, metals, of course, definitely is there. Mid and small caps, and pharma, FMCG. These are the sectors, these are the stocks that one should look to buy on a dip going forward, provided you have the support of the stock and the sector. Coming back to the NSE indices over here, if I take a look at the CNX metal, there you go, extremely strong uptrend, and one should not doubt the underlying momentum of the trend. So look to buy on a dip, no doubt about it. IT has gone into lagging. So this breakout that we found in IT has actually failed now. So this is not a good sign, this failure of breakout, which will clearly show you big stuck in a range behavior from the IT space. Now, one thing I should bring your attention to, which I had covered in one of my YouTube videos, how to safeguard yourself from breakout failures, right? This was a breakout week for CNX IT, Nifty IT, and the low of previous week is breached. So for IT, this low, I think, is going to be a very, very important low. If this low is gone, then we should probably stay away from IT for some decent amount of time. So be very careful, keep an alert on that. Private banks and PSU banks, if Bank Nifty manages to bounce back, find some support, then definitely this is the space that we will be looking at. The market is still in a short-term downtrend, so let's wrap it up with a final call that we maintain a cautious stance on the overall market. Short-term trend is down. It's the banks and the Bank Nifty and banking stocks that can support us, considering that the Bank Nifty is down close to 20% from a high-low basis in this correction. So, of course, some value buying will try and creep in there. Overall, time to stick to short-term trades, be a little cautious, maybe trade less, wait for the phase to play out, and wait for the next trending zone for the market. Till then, I think stay cautious is the best thing to do.